It's never a either or. It's a matter of how much of which one is the only thing that really changes.
Welcome to the Golf Fitness Bomb Squad podcast with Chris Finn, a production of P4S Golf.
Welcome in, folks. Another edition of the Golf Bomb Squad podcast. Chris, how we doing this afternoon?
I'm good. It's another day with my Golf Fitness Bomb Squad partner here. Just looking for some bombs to diffuse. Hopefully help people hit some bombs. It's always a good day on the Bomb Squad.
Yeah, absolutely. And, it's time of the year. It's exciting time for a lot of golfers, especially from my neck of the woods, the Midwest. I know you're from the Northeast. We're getting into like golf season's finally here, right? People have been waiting all winter, staring out the window, looking at that weather forecast. When are we going to get those few days in a row? We're going to get out and play. I think a lot of guys are in that window right now. And so I thought it'd be great to just kind of talk about how do we get off to a good start, right? How do we make sure we don't get injured in that first month, right? Which would really suck after waiting all year, to play all long winter. And what can we do to really actually play well that first month? I think a lot of guys, when they go out and play early, there's a lot of rust, right? Because we haven't probably picked up a club, we haven't been outside. And so maybe other things that we can do, next off season as we look into that to really plan ahead to play well. I know for me, coming off of a long winter, typically in the Midwest, it's that first month is really shaking off those cobwebs. And that first 3 or 4 rounds, man, I am sore at the end of that round, even if I take a cart, right? Because look at my body, I don't walk very often, so we are taking a cart.
You kidding me?
Yeah, I get home and then my wife's like, "Hey, can you do this outside, or can you do this around the house?" And I'm like, no, I can't. My body's not going to let me. So, I think where you're at down in North Carolina, obviously there's kind of a year-round ebb and flow to the golf season, but there is a little bit of time where there is what you call that off season. So, what are maybe some tips and tricks that you've got up your sleeve that you'd say, hey guys, if you're getting ready to get off to a good start this golf season, here's some things to look at?
I think we talk about it is in terms of the Northeast, let's just say Northern Hemisphere coming out of winter. Maybe it's, down in Florida coming out of the summer where it's actually bearable temperatures. It applies. I think we use a lot of times like the off season, getting back into it. Any sort of layoff you have, it could be, 2 weeks, it could be, 2 months, it could be 2 years. I think the number one tip that I would give to anyone who's looking to get back into the game or that's really looking to, have the best start to, quote unquote, getting back into the game is it all starts, from a physical standpoint, making sure you can get from point A to point B. So can you take a full backswing? Can you take a full follow through, right? And obviously, that means just making the full swing for you, right? So,
yeah.
Your backswing may be longer than, your buddy next to you on the range. But, it all comes down to, timing is massively important. And one of the biggest influences on timing is how mobile you are. So I'm sure we've all been ice cold and 40 degrees and rain. And you're like, wow, I don't have the timing today. And then it's like 80 degrees and sunny. Wow, I'm so limber. This is amazing. It's nice and smooth. Look at this tempo, right? And so mobility begets tempo for a lot of people. And so I think a lot of times when we come out of, a break, whether it's winter, whether it's just, you were traveling or maybe it was an injury, getting back into the game is so hard because a lot of the times we've lost some of the mobility and some of the ability to create that quote unquote easy tempo. So I think the first step is to always kind of take a look at, we have a lot of times we'll talk at P4S Golf about 4 main rotary centers. You have your shoulders, you have your hips, you have your thoracic spine, and you have your neck. And if you can rotate in those 4 areas, getting anywhere you need to get to in the golf swing is doable. If you can't, unfortunately, like 80% of people listening, then there's going to be a massive, issue in terms of, being able to get there or not. And that's going to cause a lot of problems.
Yeah. And I think definitely for me, I've grown up in the Midwest my whole life. And as I've gotten older, the that first month of the season has gotten a little harder and harder to feel good, right? During those time frames, those first few rounds. I also play golf with, no offense, but with a lot of old guys, right? A lot of guys who are in their 60s or in their 70s.
Let's be real. They play more golf than the guys in their 30s.
That's right. It's true. I love spending their money, after I win it on the golf course. But I talked to a couple guys actually just this past week who were dealing with some low back pain, some SI joint stuff, some things kind of in the glutes, and I got to talk to them. I said, well, what have you been doing? Right. What have you been doing to kind of get ready for the season? And a lot of it was, hey, I've been walking, or, I play, pickleball. I know it's a big thing for a lot of people. But there hasn't been a lot of golf specific work that they've been doing, over the off season and getting ready for the season. And I know that's something that we talk about quite a bit is using that off season as a springboard, right? It's not just a time to stop playing golf, right? And to not work on your game and wait till the spring comes, because if you're doing that, you're going to lose a lot of progress you made, that previous year if you're working on your game and things along those lines. So in terms of like how much time should folks be putting into like that off season and then kind of this early season? I mean, how much work should people be putting into their games, like, getting out to the range and working on the actual golf swing during the start of the season? And how much time should we be putting into getting that body ready, Chris? And what does that look like for you, as you maybe come off of a layoff of not playing for a couple of weeks and then getting back into the game or a month or so?
I think the balance, but to balance the two, it's a tough one, right? I think there's some, fitness and medical people that are like, oh, don't swing a club until you can like move full mobility, right? Well, that's stupid, because then you waste another 4 to 6 weeks just doing mobility stuff. And there's the golf camps. Oh, we'll figure it out. You don't need to do the fitness side. Like we'll just work around it, and you'll be totally good there too. So, I think the answer lies in the middle. And I think I like the saying, a coin has 3 sides, right? There's what the golf side is saying is, hey, you need to work on your golf game, which is true. What the fitness side is saying is, hey, you need to work on your body, which is true. But then there's a side of the coin, right? That's the third side. And I think the answer really is that you got to be doing both. And I think it's a matter of informing, what you're doing on the golf side with what your body's able to do at that moment. So if you're unable to rotate in let's say your lead hip, well, then your golf swing, maybe we need to flare that lead foot, left foot if you're a right-handed player, right foot if you're a left-handed player. Maybe we need to flare that a little bit, for the time being, in order to get to where we need to get to at impact. And then as that hip is cleaned up and we get more mobility, then all of a sudden you can remove that compensation. You don't need to flare that foot as much, right? So I think when we're talking about, how much of your body should you work on versus how much of your game should work on, it's going to be a fluid ebb and flow. And sometimes you're going to be working more on your game and just maintaining your body. And other times your body is going to be an absolute wreck, and you're going to have to spend more time there than, maybe you're just focusing on putting, right? You're not out playing as much because, I don't know, maybe the weather's terrible or whatever. You're like, well, what can I do to work on my game? Well, maybe I'm going to work on that back that's been bugging me. I'm going to clean up my hips and shoulders as much as I can, and I'll putt and chip, in the bonus room maybe. And then, then when the weather's better, I'm going to go back out. So I think it's never a either or. It's a matter of how much of which one is the only thing that really changes. Yeah.
Yeah. And I know that for people, who are in the northern half of the world or the country, that when the weather does finally turn and it comes, there's this overwhelming desire that, hey, when I have free time, I'm going to go play golf, right? I'm going to go hit the range, or I'm going to go putt, or I'm going to go play 9 holes or play in my league. And there can sometimes be a tendency to kind of forget about the body side and what needs to go into that and the work that needs to go in there. And I think one of the things that I talk with golfers all the time about is we don't need 5 or 6 hours of your week, right? We need 90 minutes a week. So if you can put 90 minutes towards this golf specific training that we talk about and working on those problem areas, those rotational centers, right? The neck, thoracic spine, the hips, and the shoulders. And if you can find that time, that is going to pay big dividends for you, down the road, because I talk to guys all the time too who say, hey, I'm going to get out. I'm so excited. I'm going to get back to playing 5 or 6, 7 days a week. And it's like, man, if you're playing that much golf, like, and the way your body is rotating now, like I tell them you're like a train going down the tracks and the bridge is out up ahead and you don't know it, right? You have no idea that it's out up ahead, but it is. And we need to fix that bridge before, it's too late. So, what would you say to a guy like that who is so excited to get out, and play golf, about the importance of that body work and the mobility and just making sure that we're taking that time and setting that aside to do that, throughout the golf season?
Yeah, I think for that guy, I'm like, let's go. Let's do it. Like, I want you to play 7 days a week. Right?
Yeah.
And then I think it's, well, let's see where we're at. And let's understand, playing 7 days a week, what is the demand of that? Okay, well, let's say, you're going to walk. Okay, let's say you walk half those days. Okay, so that's at least, 20 to 25 miles of walking.
Yeah.
How much you been walking recently, sir? Well, none. Okay, there's one element we need to kind of get used to is walking 25 miles more a week than you had been, right? And it's, well, how many balls you've been hitting? Because if you're playing 7 days a week, let's say you shoot 80, so then let's say you're a decent putter, you got 35 putts, so that puts you at 45 swings?
Yeah.
How many swings you taking a day, sir? Plus warm-ups. Are you going to practice as well? Like, I'm not doing anything right now. Okay, so we've increased your walking by 25 miles a week from 0. We've increased your swings to 1,000, let's say, with practice swings and whatnot from 0.
Yeah.
I'm just curious. How do you think your body's going to handle that? Like going from 0 to all that. Like, think you're going to be totally cool? They'll kind of pause and they're like, maybe a little sore.
Yeah, a little bit.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, okay, cool. Well, and let's just assume that your body is totally good. Maybe your hips just tight. So let's hey. So you said, I think we said 1,000 swings. So if I punch you in the shoulder, not super hard, just a little bit of a tap. If I do that 1,000 times, you think you're gonna bruise it all? You think it'd be totally cool, man? He's like, well,
yeah,
probably be a little sore, probably bruise a little bit. I was like, well, that's what's going to happen to your hip. And when that happens to your hip, guess where it goes? It goes to your back. And you ever heard of anybody with back issues in golf after starting to play a whole lot, sir? Like, oh, you know what? Yeah, I have a few buddies. My back's actually been a problem in the past. It's like, oh, okay. Right. So I think it's really it becomes, and I say all that in jest, and I'll say that in conversations with people, right? And they kind of are laughing by the end of it, and it just gives people kind of a context of what they're actually saying they're going to do. Like, it's one thing, I want to play golf every single day. Great. Let's explore what exactly is going to be happening physically versus what is currently happening physically, and let's just make sure your body's ready to handle it. And I think that is going on a golf trip with 2 days, 2 rounds of golf every single day. Like, all of that stuff's awesome. I think it's just important to understand what are we asking our bodies to do, and let's be realistic and actually give ourselves a chance about what can come of it, good and or bad. And to your point, if you are driving on a train track, at some point you're probably going to go over a bridge. And if there's an issue with the bridge, that's going to cause a problem. If you're going to go from 0 to 7 days a week and walking multiple days and practicing, there's going to be a bridge that's going to give out, and it's called an overuse injury. And if you're not prepared with your body in order to be successful, those things just happen. And that's why the number one injury in golf is an overuse injury. That's unless you're hit a root with your club and fracture something, or you get hit in the head with a golf club or a golf ball. Literally, the only injury in golf is overuse. And unfortunately, it's happens so much to guys where they get a week off or they retire and they're like, all right, go. And they go hard for 2 weeks. And then they're like, all right, that was fun. Now I'm done.
Yeah. I was going to say, I think that the most oftentimes I see that the guys at my, my club get injured is at the beginning of the year, right? A guy a knee or a hamstring or the low back is barking at him. And it's like, well, what did you do? What have you been doing the past month, to get ready to come out here and play those 3, 4, 5 days a week that you like to do? And so I think there is definitely a really big importance that we need to put on, that preparation for a new season, for a golf golf trip for coming back from an injury. I know one that I hear a lot, Chris, from people is, hey, I got a joint replaced, right? I got a new knee or I got a new shoulder. And I'm getting back into the swing of things, right? And
lots of golfers get new joints between the months of October and February.
That's right. It's very popular for those surgeons are pretty happy around those months.
A lot of golfers in the winter coming through.
So, those guys are working their way back, right? And I think one thing it always, I always talk to those guys back about is kind of like, what is that trust in that new joint, right? And we go through this mobility test and I hear a guy who says, oh, hey, I got a knee, I got a hip replacement, 5 months ago. So that, that one doesn't move very well. And we're like, well, hey, your hip's only 5 months old. It should probably move pretty well, right? It's pretty much brand new. And so we talk with those guys who are coming off of those surgeries or those joint replacements, they are, again, itching, scratching, like ready to get out and play golf. And so, what would you say to a guy like that who's coming off of a hip replacement or a shoulder replacement, who's again, itching to get out and play? Talk me through kind of what that looks like for a golfer like that in terms of getting back on the golf course and the importance of, again, these mobility centers and making sure they're ready to rock and roll.
Yeah, I think regardless if you're coming back from a joint injury, if you're just coming back from an off season or a layoff, I think there's a three-pronged attack to be successful with it. And I call it mobilize, optimize, and regenerize. And I'm 100% confident regenerize is not a word, but it rhymed and it sounded good. So,
it does. It sounds really good.
You didn't even question it.
No.
But I think what that stands for, and I use it's kind of catchy, so hopefully people remember it: mobilize, optimize, regenerize. And what that means is when you're going to get back into the game, whether it, off season, surgery, whatever it may be, the first thing you need to do foundationally is make sure that your mobility is good in the four rotary centers. So we talk about the shoulders, the hips, the spine, and the neck, right? And spine meaning thoracic spine, so kind of like your belly button, the bottom of your neck. So those are the big four areas where we need to rotate. If we can make sure that we rotate there, and then we know we can get from point A to point B. So then we go to optimize, right? So now you're mobilized. If most people are going to have issues there, and that's where you start. You start by opening those areas up: crossballs, softballs, foamballs, whatever it may be. Theraguns, if you're using, Theracane, or the cane of pain, as some people call it, right? Or you go to your local friendly physio who puts their elbow in your rear end and opens the hip up real quick. Hurts like hell, but very effective, right? So lots of different ways to mobilize. Then you go to optimize. And optimize is really what we talk about, is looking at where your current club head speed is, where do you want to go, and then understanding where your strength and your power numbers are, and are you able to actually support those? Because if you can't support where you want to go, well, then we got to get you stronger, or maybe we got to get you more powerful. Or if, let's say, your current club head speed, and this is common with a lot of single digit players, maybe your club head speed is really, really high relative to where your current speed's at or where your current strength is at, right?
Yeah.
So you're swinging faster than what you can actually control, right? That's a problem, right? So we need to optimize it in terms of meaning we need to optimize where your club head speed percentile is for your age relative to your strength and power numbers for your age, right? And that's, as we have the home assessment, it's literally this is the first thing we do with every single person at P4S Golf, is we go through all of this because we want to make sure that A, can you get from point A to point B, and B, are you strong enough and powerful enough to support the speed that you either A, have currently, or B, want to have? Because understanding where you want to go and where you are now is how we start to really kind of develop a planned optimization. And that's where I think, if you do this like at the beginning of the off season, let's say you're taking the winter off, that you're not going to play a bunch because you're in snow. Great, you got 3 month window and runway to really do this. If you decide to do this, hey, the Masters is on next week. Shoot, I should get ready to play. right? Then this obviously can be a bit of a condensed version and trying to figure out which ones you're going to do. But it's the same idea and the same process of, do I have the mobility? Am I optimized from a strength and power perspective? And then regenerize, which, again, for my English teacher, if you're listening, when I was in high school, I know that's not a word, but it's really cool, I swear. But regenerate is your recovery, and I think your ability to recover is one of the most undervalued attribute that golfers kind of don't appreciate at all before the age of 50, probably not even before the age of 40, right? But then as you get older, you start realizing, oh man, I used to be able to play 3-4 days and I'd be fine. I don't know, maybe 32 in your case, Tyler.
Yeah, please. I would love to know how to regenerize or whatever that word is, because I need it big time. So lay it out for me, Chris.
Yeah. Well, and so I think for everybody listening, your ability to recuperate or basically recover after playing. So, for instance, we were talking about earlier in the show, the guy who wants to play 7 days a week and understanding what that means. Well, he's going to need to be able to recover after day 5 to go back and play day 6. And so I think that's, what people don't understand is, how much nutrition comes into play, sleep, doing tissue work and, rollings and, whether it's seeing a physio or using your Theragun in the right areas, right? To, using that after you play to help your tissue recover and get back so that you can be back the next day. And then also, maintaining your strength numbers up so that you're able to actually absorb the load and the stress that's getting put on your body. So, I think, if you don't remember anything else from this episode, mobilize, optimize, regenerize. And really it's that's how you want to approach coming off of any sort of layoff is, am I mobile enough? Am I strong enough to support where I currently am and or where I want to go? And then, do I have a plan in place so that I can recover? While as much as I would like to believe as the next guy that a nice glass of bourbon and our cold beer after a round of golf is all you need to recover.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that's not generally the actual case. While it feels good in the moment, the next morning, it doesn't help you the next morning, unfortunately.
It works well when you're 25. I can attest to that, but not so much, as you get older. So it sounds like in order to get more MOR, mobilize, optimize, regenerize out of your golf game, you got to do those 3 things. Is that right?
That was fancy. That was nifty. I didn't think of that. All right.
Yeah, I think we're gonna have some more merch coming out. T-shirts, hats,
more golf,
all sorts of things. No, I think that's a great conversation, Chris. And I think our goal is to help golfers all throughout the year. But I know if again, guys like me who have spent their whole life in the Midwest and know what it's like to patiently wait for golf season, you want to get off to a good start. You don't want to have those aches and pains. You don't want to get hurt in that, in March or April as you're getting out for those first few rounds. So I think if people remember that more acronym, that MOR, and kind of keep that top of mind, it's going to help a ton of golfers with their mindset and kind of the things to work on as they get ready to play more golf and as they get out and go 3, 4, 5 days a week as the weather gets better and they can get out more. And so there's the more again. I didn't even mean
it's everywhere.
I didn't even mean that one. That's right. Well, yeah, this has been fantastic, man. I'm excited to test some of that out myself. Again, I feel like I'm a great lab rat for all this stuff that we talk about on the podcast, because I've got mobility issues. I've got some pain stuff going on. I don't necessarily know that my age stacks up with when those pain things should start happening, but I'm a little bit ahead of the game. But
you're advanced for your age. That's a good thing when you're 2. It's not a good thing when you're 32.
Well, I'm excited to give more a try for myself, Chris. So thanks for bringing that to our attention. Excited to give that a shot and see what I can do in my own game.
For sure, man. Yeah, it's been a great conversation, and just I think this is one of the keys to helping people hit more bombs and really helping us, as a team and as the Golf Fitness Bomb Squad to help really diffuse as many of these ticking time bombs that are out there as possible.
Yeah, and I think those people seem to probably tick a little faster. That wick gets a little shorter, early in the season with those cold temperatures and coming off of that winter. So, excited to help people, figure that out and feel better. And so, I think I got one last thing to say, Chris, and it's just bombs away.
Bombs away, baby.